Hello, everyone, and welcome to the High Noon Hot Seat, brought to you by High Noon Podcast. I am your host, The Blevins. With me is Deathblow, and joining us today, we have a very special guest, a former pro player for Cloud9, a committee member for Team USA Overwatch World Cup team, a famous harasser of hexagrams, and most recently, the head coach for Dallas Fuel. Please welcome Kyky. What's up, buddy?
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show. You are officially our longest introduction. Man of many titles. But we do have a ton of stuff. I know the fan reception and for you has just been astronomical. We've got a ton of people, new people in the Discord that are excited to hear the interview, and they're excited to hear from you and about the team. So let's just jump right into it. Always like to start off the interviews with just a little bit of background on you and get a little bit of a feel of what your gaming origin and esports origin story is.
All right. Basically, when I was really young, my stepdad had a computer, and my parents had just split up. My stepdad was all in the PC games, and I had started playing Diablo 1 and StarCraft 1 on his computer, just like in my free time. I was really bad, obviously, because of how young I was. And then, so that was pretty casual up until then. And then when I was actually going to school, I didn't have a computer because I was at my dad's house. And I mostly played SOCOM 2 on like game battles and stuff. So that was like my first competitive gaming was that. And I didn't actually get into like hardcore PC stuff until actually like near graduating high school. So I was still like probably 17 or something. So I just didn't have a PC when growing up.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like me as well, except I never became anything. I do remember playing Diablo 1 when I was like, I don't even know, probably like 15, just like playing Diablo 1 up with my friends, just sitting next to each other, playing a single player game as two people. So, you know, that's kind of the early beginnings. What got you into Overwatch?
Into Overwatch, I mean, I've always been a fan of Blizzard games. Right before Overwatch, the game I was playing mostly was World of Warcraft at the time with Adam, one of my first teammates in Cloud9. I think like we had a very like I've had like a group of friends that I played a lot of games with over the years, and we like basically all come from different genres. Like a bunch of us came from FPS, some came from MMOs, and some MOBAs. Like I would say I was more on the MMO side myself. But basically because we were all from like different like heavy backgrounds, like Overwatch seemed like such a good game for all of us to get into. And so we did, and then so our first team, Cloud9, was just like a whole bunch of group of friends, basically.
Just a whole group of friends that dominated for so long.
Yeah, but I mean I think being friends is what contributed to that a lot. Like being able to like tell each other like things you're messing up on and how to get better is pretty important.
Yeah, and I do appreciate the World of Warcraft shout out there. I really appreciated just the percentage of people that mention World of Warcraft in their gaming past. It helps me win an argument, a running argument with the Blevins here. So I appreciate that. Can you tell us a little personally now? You're not really playing anymore. You're in the coaching position, but how much do you get the opportunity to actually play the game? And what is your personal SR right now? Do you actually get into ladder and play ranked?
Right now, I think I've decayed. I started playing a decent amount during our break when we got back from Korea, and I think I was like hovering around 4,300 or so. So, I mean, I've kind of fallen off a little bit when I go back and play. I feel like even when I play now, I just feel like I feel like I'm so bad now compared to like how much I played back then. But I mean, I'm still a grandmaster, just not like super high up. I just don't have the time to play.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to balance the team life and the actually getting to play the game yourself. But we do want to touch briefly here, as we've not yet reached the conclusion of the World Cup here that'll be going on next month in at BlizzCon. So we just had a couple of questions about that. The first one being, do you think in the future would you like teams to be able to take more than 6 players so that way they can use substitutions?
I think subs are very interesting in Overwatch. However, they did say that the World Cup this year was taken way more seriously than they wanted it to be taken. So I think that was all, like partially due to Overwatch League coming up and people feeling like they had to try hard, but I don't think that it'll ever be a thing for World Cup. I think in the following years it's going to be much more like lighthearted. And not only that, but you also have the situation where like the USA can have a bunch of subs. Sure, we have a very large population, but some countries don't have that. And also, who would be making the call on who to sub in and who to sub out? Because most of these teams are just the players themselves. Like Finland, for example, was 3 players as the committee. So who's making the call to sub in or out?
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that it actually got taken more seriously than they wanted, because we're like, oh, we wanted it to be taken even more seriously.
Yeah, it's like too casual for us. We think of it more like an exhibition or like an all-star style game. But it really, kind of the timing of everything, there was a bit of a drought in competitive Overwatch. So, people were, even from a viewing perspective, really looking and searching for something to kind of grasp onto to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely feeling really serious in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Even though like it may not have seemed that way on the outside, it definitely like the teams were isolating themselves for a good part of it, and they were being like super try hard about everything.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk with Christopher from Team UK, and they were taking it pretty seriously. They're also pretty cocky about it too. But
That's just part of their thing,
yeah.
Being cocky.
So what did you think about the selection process this time around? Was there anything that you'd want to see changed in the future?
I mean, in terms of picking players, I think it was basically how it should be. I don't really know like how everyone went about the committee process. I know that like for me, they just asked me like, hey, do you want to be one of the nominees? And then then they came out with 10 other people or 9 other people, and it was a voting process. I don't really know like what else happened, like who they asked or what the guidelines were for who they asked or what. So I don't know, like from my perspective, it seemed to be fine.
Gotcha. So, and last thing we'll talk about with Overwatch World Cup, how seriously is Team USA taking this upcoming match? Like, how did they balance Overwatch League tryouts and whatnot versus this upcoming versus Korea match?
Oh, I think Overwatch League tryouts for the most part are coming to an end. I think there's only a few teams left that are still actually doing tryouts. And I think most teams are actually coming pretty much just like finalizing the contracts, and they're pretty much done. For the Team USA, we obviously didn't practice during Contenders. We're not practicing yet because some people were at Contenders playoffs and they want to just take a short vacation. However, like I did schedule a boot camp for them on the week before BlizzCon, coming up here in a week now at NVIDIA, and so they'll be going there. Unfortunately, I can't go with them because of all the organization stuff going on for Dallas Fuel, but I'll be helping them out when I can.
Nice. Well, we will definitely be rooting you guys on for Team USA. We have talked on the show previously about how it would basically be like the Miracle on Ice type of situation where you guys able to beat Korea in the first round. So it'll be one to remember, hopefully.
Hopefully, it's gonna happen.
I mean, I'm still hoping to get to BlizzCon. And if I'm there for that match, I can't even imagine how the place will erupt should you guys take them down. But moving on to Dallas Fuel, you alluded a little bit earlier that you've got a lot of stuff going on with the organization. Can you just briefly describe exactly what your role and duties are with the Dallas Fuel right now?
Right now, since we're on break, I think I'm mostly just like basically like finishing up the roster, making sure we're getting who we want, talking to some of the players, talking to staff, like potential staff members. We did try out some staff members in the last few weeks before playoffs, so Contenders. So we're just getting everything finalized right now. Going to be moving soon. There's really not much to do right now. It's basically our vacation. There's a little bit of things I need to do here and there, but not much at all.
All right, and now we recently got the announcement of the brand, the name, all that stuff for the organization and for the team. Did you guys get that much in advance? When did you guys first see and hear the name, and did you guys have any input in that during the selection process?
The players didn't actually find out until like probably a week before it was announced. Me and Tasmo, who's the team manager, we knew about it probably 6 weeks in advance, and they asked us for suggestions on the name, the logo, all that stuff. But it's honestly like as much as people bash the name, like it's I think it's like probably the best one out there that we could think of. At first we were like, okay, we can think of something better, but like we were trying to get something that was related to energy because that's what our investor is, and that's what Dallas is all about to the team. So I mean, it feels pretty good. I think you can do a lot with the name too.
Yeah, honestly, it's so far it's definitely one of the better names, and I think at the moment probably I would say the best one. Though
Definitely
we
the
do
best
have
color scheme.
yeah, really everything about it is a really nice package. So it was definitely a very good job. And if you don't believe us, we have not been kind to all of the names, so you can, you can look that up. But looking forward at the league and how things will play out, I'm sure you have a little more insight into what some of the rosters are and things like that. Are there any teams that you guys think might be, big rivals for you? Whether it's, you've got that team right there in Houston, or do you have your eyes set on Seoul, or anything, really either way, whether it's regionality or competition based, and really who you think the toughest competition will be for you?
I think there might be that natural optic rivalry if like unless Blizzard like makes sure that there's nothing you can tie from NB to optic, blah blah blah. That's like
Right.
it's potential rivalry. I think in terms of competition, it's probably just gonna be Team Seoul.
Yeah, you guys got a little experience going over there with them already, so there's got to be some good rapport there as it stands. And now you did say you guys are doing a little bit of work, and they've left some kind of cryptic phrasing in some tweets that there might be some additional player signings coming up. How much say do you get in that process, and is there anybody else you work with in deciding it? I know you mentioned the manager. Is that basically like a traditional sports' GM type role?
Well, he's actually just a team manager. He focuses on Call of Duty and Overwatch both, so
Okay.
I help somewhat in that regard, like because I'm only Overwatch. When we find new players, I'm basically just like scouting these players, and then I ask them if they want to try out, what they're interested in, and like what they're like, what's most important to them about finding a team, and then like we'll try the players out, and then if I think that I want to go further with them, then I'll bring it to Mike, our owner, and Tasmo, the team manager, and they'll take it from there, like in terms of like contract negotiations and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Are you a strict stickler, or are you kind of laid back in these talks, or are you kind of like a I guess a stickler kind of like? How are you in these talks?
You mean talks to the players, or
Yeah, talks with like prospective players. Like, are you like
No, I think I'm pretty laid back.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm pretty laid back with all of them. Like this team is honestly like a family feel team. It's not like
Not like a
okay, this
business.
is try hard business time. Like we want everyone to feel because like having fun is very important to me and like how I want this team to be run. So
Yeah, I feel like that's the way you should do it, but I feel like there's gonna be some teams that just they're gonna have guys in like in suit jacket or in suit coats and like trench coats show up to people's houses and be like, "We want you for our Overwatch team."
yeah, I mean, if people want to take it super hard and they want to like practice all year round and do stuff like that, I feel like players will get burnt out.
Yeah.
You got to have a fun aspect, and people have to like enjoy being there for more than just money.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree 100%. But moving right along, so we've recently seen miraculous youngsters in Team China kind of level up in terms of how well they're doing with the APAC events. I don't know how much you've been watching it lately on your vacation, but how do you how many like Chinese players do you think are going to be in Overwatch League Season 1? Do you think that they're going to make it into Season 1, or are we going to probably wait till Season 2 and for pickups of Chinese players?
Outside of the Shanghai team, I would say that just because most rosters are done already, I'd be surprised to see more than like one or two on non-Shanghai team. But
Gotcha.
on season 2, I think you should expect a lot more because I think that country is going to keep going and going. They're not going to stop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're just now starting to see the budding of it, so to speak. So it'll be interesting to keep tabs on the Chinese and other APAC teams as well. So we've got a viewer question in from Thornrain, and he wants to know how it's been working with a multilingual team. Is there a common language that you guys are all using, or how has that dynamic been?
Well, we obviously all speak English the most. Mickey, when Mickey first came here, he didn't really speak English that well. When Effect came in, his English was really, really poor. But actually, when we were in Korea for a while, like this whole team is very interested in learning Korean and speaking Korean. So even like a lot of our call-outs while in Korea were Korean call-outs, which was funny. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Effects getting a lot better English. We've got him English classes. Working with the multilingual group, it's been definitely very interesting. I think, obviously, like the Swedes and Timo from Finland, they speak pretty much perfect English. There's no problems there. Harry, Effect, and Mickey are the ones that we really like to work with. But I think it's fun. Like I think it brings the team together because like when they're trying to learn and they're just like repeating words. Or even like just the other weekend at Contenders, Effect would be walking on the street and he'd just be reading every sign he saw in English. And I think it's like actually good for like team bonding, I think, because like everyone's like helping Effect, and I think that makes him feel closer to the team and makes him feel much more like a part of the team. And
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it actually, like I think it showed up, or like it showed on stage. Because Effect was talking more on stage during Contenders than I'd ever heard him talk in scrims or during Apex when we were there the whole time. So I think there's definitely a good factor to that.
I was going to say, I love that you guys are making some effort to learn Korean as well, because it really it has to help with their confidence that, you know, it's really hard to learn a language. And even if it's not a full effort, like maybe Effect is making to try to learn English, just some effort there to kind of see the silly goof ups that happen and come of it. Like it'll make you less embarrassed to have those come up, you know, in a pressure situation or something like that. You know, it just gives him a little more confidence to do his best, and helps bridge the gap some. I really like the hearing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely nice. Actually, surprisingly enough, most of our team, or I think even all of our team, can actually read Korean now. We can't have a full conversation in Korean, but we all know the basics and we all can read it.
I can identify it when I'm looking at it. Like I can tell the difference between Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. But other than that,
just because of magic
that's
cards,
about it. Yes, yeah, that's the only. It's not a good reason. It's not a good reason I can do that. But.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely really awesome here. I mean, you could. It's funny because you could have that story be completely different, where you know, Effect is just really struggling, or you know, one player is struggling because they're the only player that doesn't know English or something like that. So it's really awesome to hear that you guys have kind of rallied around that and really bonded over it. So a little bit of a different type of question. So you guys are obviously going to know your schedule in advance for Overwatch League, which is going to be a different type of tournament format. Will you make game plans for each specific team you play against, or will you just kind of take it one at a time?
I'm not really sure how to approach. We don't really know the exact format of how matches will be played, or like how many matches per week we'll have yet. But if it's anything like what we did for Contenders, basically I prepared stuff for both FaZe and FNR GFE. But I didn't tell them anything about FaZe until we were about to play FaZe. So I don't put too much on them at one time. I just tell them about the next opponent. I have them focus on the next opponent, but I need to be ready for the opponent after that because there's only 24 hours in between games. So
yeah. All right. Well, I assume that means it's on me next here, but I gotta find my spot in the list. Okay. So now about your situation there, you're the only coach that we know of for the team at the moment. Is there anybody, you know, underneath as an analyst or an assistant coach? And in a perfect world, what would the size of your coaching staff be? Would it be like you have a tank, a DPS, and a support coach, or what structure would you put on it, assuming budget was no issue?
In a perfect world, I don't think any team can get close to this right now. But in a perfect world, once everything's established, I think the structure I'd want to go for is like a head coach to delegate like and help with everything, kind of just like spread himself out, and then also like a strategic coach and like a positional coach that would focus more on like honing a player's skills towards a certain meta or a certain team comp or a certain strategy, whatever. And then the strategic coach will just do more of like overall strategy, thinking of team comps, counters, and like focusing on what other teams are going to be playing and stuff like that. And then the head coach is kind of like doing both at the same time and like making sure everything is on the right page and everything's aligning together. Um, about having more people on the team right now for staff, we actually we have an assistant coach ready to go to be announced soon. He actually helped with a lot of our preparation pre-contenders playoffs. So between week 6 and playoffs, and he's very, very good, very organized, and it'll definitely be a good addition to our team.
Great. We'll definitely look forward to hearing that. We love to talk about the coaching aspect of things here, so we'll definitely keep an eye open for that. The next question comes from a listener named Nameless, or I don't know if that's actually their name or they asked to be anonymous. Okay, so Nameless wants to know, how many players do you anticipate taking into Season 1?
We are most likely 99% taking 9 players into Season 1.
Okay, he had a follow-up. Why not 12? It seems reasonable to take all 12 to give yourself as many options as possible.
That's a tricky one to answer because I actually don't know if I'm allowed to say why we can't have 12, but definitely
an organizational
12...
decision is an acceptable answer.
No. It's not an organizational decision, I would say. I would say it's more... I mean, I'm pretty sure people can just like put 2 and 2 together on that one, but...
I think we've talked about the reason on the show before.
Yeah.
It rhymes with rallery rap.
No comment.
You don't need... No, okay.
All right, well... the next question here, we'll just move right along then, get you out of that without getting you in any trouble. We don't
need, for the record, anyone who's going back and reviewing this was me that said it, not Kyky. So
yes.
You're completely safe.
At Contenders, though, you guys under the Envious brand gave us a glimpse into how subs can be used in Overwatch, and obviously, you know, the sub that you use, Seagull, is one that you're carrying with you into Overwatch League. Do you guys have a general team philosophy when it comes to substitutions, and do you ever consider things like, you know, a player's momentum or their mindset when you're making a substitution?
Mindset for sure. Bringing Seagull into 3 of the 7 maps he played in Contenders was actually more to get him more comfortable with the team on stage and get him back into like the stage environment. Like obviously we could have just played the 2 Koth maps of Seagull and then played Mickey for the rest, and had it been 5 and 2 instead of 4 and 3, and it would have probably been better results potentially. But I mean, it's very important that we get everyone accustomed to the stage, get everyone in the better mindset. That way that isn't much of an issue later on. However, like, yeah, if someone's like super nervous, having a bad day, we'll need to play around that with subs. We need to be ready for anything. It's also very hard to like tell. Like we don't know how the sub format's going to work in Overwatch League yet. That's not really been told to us. So I don't know if we'll be able to do it between every map, or maybe only one swap like Apex had it. I mean, I think we made it look pretty seamless. I'm not sure what it looked like from a spectator point of view, but I feel like we were very fast about switching hard drives and everything for Mickey and Seagull, so maybe that'll look up.
Yeah, it seemed pretty quick and seamless from our perspective. It was also this also leaves open the chance that you can just change on the fly and just have like Mickey and Seagull standing behind each other and just swap in and out. We don't know. It's not confirmed not to be. So I'm confirming that it might be.
All right.
So moving right along, I don't know. I mean, you guys have you know, at least the envious players and yourself included have known each other and worked with each other for so long, this might not be an issue, but has it been difficult managing the egos of players and keeping them happy with game time, or do you foresee this maybe coming up in the future with future rosters and future player add-ons?
Surprisingly, it's something that players that when like we're asking players to join our team, they're super worried about their game time that they'll be receiving. But the players that we have currently on the team, like they feel like it helps them a lot to be able to sit out. Like when we're doing these tryouts and stuff, they feel like it helps them a lot to be able to sit out and watch the tryouts play and like look at the whole team from a bird's eye point of view rather than always be playing themselves. My goal is to not make no one feel like they're actually a sub and to just make everyone feel like they're just one big team. That's what I want it to feel like, and not just like have one person always on the bench and just only bring them in against easy setups or something like that. In terms of ego, no, I don't think anyone on this team has an ego that gets the best of them. I think everyone's pretty level-headed they just want the team to win and want the team to do what's best. I think Mickey's attitude during contenders, like when Siegel was subbing in, Mickey's attitude was like so good. Like he was so happy. He was just like, yes, we're winning. I don't care. Like he didn't care about subbing out at all.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it to be the case with you guys, but I'm sure that there are definitely some players out there that might put up a little more of a stink, or at least have a little bit more of a heated conversation than that. But I'm sure we'll definitely see that, especially since, you know, we can have players as young as just turned 18 coming into the scene. So this is kind of a hard question to answer, but how would you describe your style of coaching?
I actually looked up styles of coaching recently, and I feel like I mix a lot of the different styles together. I would say like the way I go about it is I start them out with like maybe, let's say I start them out with like a strategy or a team comp or something, and then I basically encourage them heavily to think about things on their own and to adapt on their own. So we do this thing, which kind of started back in Apex, where they don't like having outside help during like the middle of a map in scrims. So we focus very heavily on the adaptation, like from their point of view. That way it sticks harder, or like they're figuring out things on their own mid-map. And then maybe after the map, we'll all talk about it. Maybe I'll say why it worked or why it didn't work, or things that we should do differently or do better. But mid-map, they figure it out, they adapt. So they're pretty much like, it's like a free thinking, it's like a guided free thinking mix. It's pretty weird, but I really don't know how to like describe it. I'd say like the biggest thing I add is like kind of like a leadership mentality, I think is the best way to describe it. Like I'm kind of like a leadership person, and then I want them to basically use their brains and branch out and like have their own ideas, and then we just all like improve together.
Well, to kind of continue the conversation a little bit about coaching, for the Overwatch League, do you see it kind of similar to a traditional sport coach where you kind of have the final say on a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you're the one that receives the bulk of the blame? Or do you think it's more, you're just there to support and it still kind of falls on the players? What do you think the balance will be there?
Coaches should have the final say on almost everything. If a coach is in a position where they don't have the final say, then I don't feel like they're doing their job. Right? Because like the players are supposed to trust you with the final decision. In terms of blame, I think that it's hard to tell. I mean, some people blame the players, some people blame the coach. I've seen both. It doesn't bother me if people blame me. Matter of fact, I prefer it because it takes stress off them, and I can handle it. Like I don't care. But I mean, it's hard to say. Like at the end of the day, the coach could have a bad strategy. The coach could have a bad swap or a bad idea, or the player could just have an off day. Like you never know. But I'm more than welcome to take the blame for everything.
Sounds good. We'll make sure we give it to you should the need arise. A question from a listener, Raycor. He's curious. Now, this is Speaking very specifically, I'm going to paraphrase this question a little bit here. Speaking very specifically about your team, would you guys like to see Lucio leave the meta? And the reason here is just Harry Hook being such a capable player on a variety of roles, and he's demonstrated that in the past. It almost feels like if you could get yourself in like a one support situation where, you know what I mean, you could run some goofier comps, it might really benefit you guys. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you definitely see a lot more diversity, but speed boost is just so necessary.
Yeah.
I think we started branching out with like our Route 66 comp that we did in contenders against FaZe. That was a no Lucio comp, and we had tons of success with it in scrims and practice. Not as much against FaZe. Yeah, I mean Harry doesn't care what he plays. He's capable of playing everything, like you said. I don't know. It's so hard to tell. I think the game without Lucio would just be more. Definitely be slower. It'd be a slower game style, slower pace, and I think it could end up being more methodical and more thinking behind like what you're gonna play and why. But I don't know. It's so hard to think about. You'd have to see how it plays out before you can go.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
too
You
far.
never know till you get there. But everything you just said would happen. Sounds like it would benefit you guys from everything I've seen. So we'll be interested to see what happens if they ever do anything crazy with the hero and get him out of the meta finally. It's only been since what, the first day. But let's shift the focus of the conversation here a little more specifically to Overwatch League. One thing that's come up in other esports, and it's something we haven't really been too sure how it's going to be handled here, but how do you want to see timeouts and pauses used in the Overwatch League?
I think the way Apex did pauses and timeouts was actually how it should be, with one exception, in that in Apex you could call timeout and not the loser could call timeout. Like let's say you lose the map, you call timeout. You could do your entire timeout, talk about what map you're going to pick and all that, and then pick the map. So you could be talking about what map you're picking during the timeout, but the team that you're playing against has no idea. So the one change I would make in that regard, that what Apex did, is that you need to pick the map before the timeout, and then you can call the timeout. Other than that, I think you should just get one timeout, and that's that.
So one for a best of 4, assuming it's the same structure as like Contenders was?
Yeah, yeah. Unless it's like if it's a best of 7, then maybe have 2 timeouts, but I don't know. it's subs is gonna make it weird too. So
yeah,
true, because it's not like you can just instantaneously zap them in, unless they could. Unless you just have Mickey and Siegel sitting next to each other. I don't know.
Just have to set up all the PCs at once, put them on like wheelable carts.
Like format pauses, subs is something I've actually been inquiring about a lot from Blizzard lately. So I haven't really thought about it too much until I get the answers back from them.
Interesting. Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I wonder if we'll see it, if they'll reveal all that good stuff at BlizzCon. But we'll just have to wait and see. So what are your thoughts on coaches being able to hear comms during a match?
Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with Jeff Kaplan and like some of the Blizzard guys during the Santa Monica qualifier for World Cup, and they asked me what I wanted, and that was like the main thing that I wanted. And they implemented it for Contenders playoffs, and it was actually amazing to have that. Like at a LAN, I was right behind the players, like behind the curtain, and I could listen to everything they said, and then between maps I could tell them, like I'd be like, okay, the next map is this, we're gonna do this, blah blah blah, expect this. And so having that was actually, it made me feel much more involved with the team at a LAN, because there was sometimes in Apex where they'd be on stage and like we could talk about whatever we wanted, we could talk about every map there beforehand, but once the first map started, I felt like nothing was in my hands anymore. Like I couldn't talk to them, I couldn't say anything, I couldn't even hear what they were saying. So having that is definitely very, very good.
Gotcha. So you're basically behind the curtain, you can hear everything they're saying. Obviously you can't talk to them during the match, right?
Yeah, they cut your mic off until the map's over, and as soon as the next map starts, they cut your mic. Like you can only talk when there's no map at all. Like they have to be in lobby.
Gotcha. And what do you actually see? Are you seeing from a player perspective, or are you just seeing basically what the feed is?
We're seeing basically the stream feed, but it's no delay, obviously. It's like the live
The
feed.
live
And
feed.
I think I'm hoping that that's going to change. The thing that'll change about that in the future is that we'll have just like a spectator camera where we can watch whatever we want to watch while listening to them, and then go from there instead of just having to watch whatever the main camera's watching.
Yeah, get to be like a team-specific spectator.
Yeah.
Although since they're controlling your ability to communicate with them, you could technically give them like full third-person spectator
Yeah, that's
advantages,
completely
too.
fine. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, you need that to see. You need to see ult percentages and stuff like that.
Right, right.
That's actually the one benefit to being backstage and watching rather than being on stage with them, because you can actually see everyone's ult percent, and it allows you to think more about what's going on and like what's happening, rather than only seeing your own team.
Gotcha. Definitely interesting. Definitely one of those things that like you don't necessarily think about right off the bat when you're thinking about Overwatch League and Overwatch, at least from a spectator perspective. So moving right along, how did you approach recruiting and scouting players? Like, were you looking for raw talent specifically, or were you looking for more of like a personality fit with the team? Like, how did that go for you for scouting?
Well, first things first, we looked for flags that we didn't currently have on the team. So, no, I'm just kidding. We looked for basically, we thought about, or I thought about what we lacked in terms of gameplay, and the obvious one there is projectile. Like, we never really had a dedicated projectile. So we went over all the projectile players. We trialed a few of them. We went with Siegel for more reasons than people would believe. His personality fit is very good with the team. The whole team enjoys having him around. He's very, very smart. Like, between maps and scrims, since day one, he would give his input on why he felt like something wasn't working from what he was playing, or like maybe an idea for what we should do differently. And having players that do that is very, very, very beneficial, as well as the fact that Siegel doesn't tilt. Like, I mean, not everyone is tilt proof, but so having someone that is very helpful when you're on stage. So I'd talk to the player, or I'd talk to the potential people that we're going to scout. I'd ask them if they're interested. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I'd like ask what their goals are, what they want to do, what they're looking for in a team, and then if what they're saying like kind of aligns with, or somewhat aligns with what we had in mind, then we would schedule them for a tryout, and then come back and try out again, and keep going from there. There's some players that were actually like, I feel like are really, really good that would fit in with our team very well, but maybe we just didn't have, maybe we just couldn't give them what they wanted, and they went other places, stuff like that. So, I mean, we didn't get everyone we wanted, but we are happy with everyone that we got. Like, there was no, like, it wasn't like a second choice. It was just kind of like, okay, come back for a tryout, and then they'd be like, come back for a second tryout, and then they'd be like, well, I actually got a better offer somewhere, or I got an offer somewhere else, and I'm going to take it. So, I mean, it's not like we took any second choices, but we definitely let go of some good people.
Man, I can't. Maybe it's just because I'm so far removed from being able to ever play on an Overwatch League team. But like, how do you go? Like, okay, number one team, absolutely, undeniably number one team in NA, like a top team in the world. Like, I don't like what is that conversation like? Where like, hey, do you want to play for us? And it's like, no, I'll play somewhere else. Like, I don't get it. I can't even conceptualize that.
Well, there's a few things actually. Like, maybe one of these other teams is just like, hey, we're gonna give you a very, very high salary, and we're gonna build the team around you, and you can have a lot of say in who your teammates are, something like that. Or maybe it's something like just, hey, Envy already has, or whatever, or Dallas, they already have this team, they already have this name. If you join this team, you're not really going to feel like you built this team, or you're not going to feel like you made this team successful, because they're already successful. So they're going to feel like if they go to one of these new teams, oh yeah, I started it from the ground up. I was there since the beginning. I'm a big part of this team's building success. So maybe that's what they're after. There's many reasons about why, And I think it just depends on like going from person to person and what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you put it like that, it makes sense. It's the classic, like, would you rather go? Well, I mean, maybe it's not classic. It's just something that I used to talk about because I played basketball in high school. It's like, would you rather go and be the best player on like a D3 college team, or would you rather go like sit the bench at Duke and like play like 10 minutes a year? It's like there's merits to both for sure.
Exactly.
So I guess I can understand that. Even if I don't agree with it, I can still understand it.
It actually kind of impacted me too when I came to Envy as a coach, because people were just like, oh, no matter. Well, first the Apex season 2 was a complete failure, and some people said it was because of me. we won't even get into that. But then there's also the part where, oh, they just won Contender season 1, but Envy was already the best Western team, so Kyky, who knows how much he did, or maybe he did nothing. Like, so because I joined a team or came into the team that was already successful, people aren't really, like, some people will try to discredit what I'm actually doing. And I mean, I understand that entirely. I think the big thing to look at actually is how Cloud9 did without me, but won't go there. Won't go there.
Which iteration or Frankenstein's monster version of Cloud9 are you talking about?
Well, right after I left, I mean, it all kind of
right after
it got increasingly worse from my point of view. But
yeah, for sure. And I mean, right after you left, none of them were on the point ever again.
The interesting part about that is, like, during Apex when I was watching that, and like before the whole C9 meme started, it was just like in Cloud9, I was always the person that was always saying like to watch the point, or saying that I'm going to contest the point, and then being like, okay, maybe Debet come to point, or someone come to point. I would be like kind of controlling that when I was playing. So that's actually, it's so interesting to see what became of that when I wasn't there. And it seemed like everything fell apart.
It's all your fault, Kyky.
It's literally, you literally created the C9 meme.
No, I mean, I don't want to take too much credit. Obviously, I think Adam was very good at it too. Like, it was basically a lot of me and Adam were making those calls. But I think once I was gone, it was just solely on Adam, and so like there may have been some missteps when it's only one person as opposed to two. You can't have one person call everything in Overwatch. No one can do that.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work out as I've tried to do that.
I was gonna say, Death, isn't that your job?
can confirm, doesn't go well. All right, well, to push the conversation beyond poor C9, who didn't do anything, how do you think coaches' salaries? Now, obviously, we know you can't talk about your own, and we don't want to ask you to, but in general, how do you think coaches' salaries will look in comparison to players' salaries?
I would say it would probably be, I think they're going to be a little bit less, or maybe on par with I think they'd be around minimum player salary on average, maybe a little bit higher, probably not much lower. It obviously, there's many things that go into salary, even for coaches. It can be marketability of coaches, how much like maybe video stuff you're going to be doing with the team, maybe it's how much staff you have, what results you've gotten, how much experience you have as a coach. Like, all those things factor in, but it's really hard to say. Like, some people know some of the player salaries that have been made public, and it's hard to say that a coach is going to be making anywhere near that amount, especially on average.
All right, well, while we're on the topic of money, might as well keep the conversation going here. Now, we saw one kind of bidding war already, or supposed bidding war over Sinatra, and it's really not going to be something I think we see a lot, or at least talked about a lot for season 1. But going forward into the other seasons, do you think there's going to be a lot of, people just kind of overpaying to get players off of teams, or is there going to be a lot of bidding wars in the future? And how do you think free agency will look for Overwatch League?
There will definitely be a lot of bidding wars. There's actually more bidding wars that happened already. More than just Sinatra. Just the other ones aren't really talked about, and some of them ended up with really high salaries too. Maybe not as high as Sinatra, or maybe higher, who knows, but there's definitely more bidding wars that happened.
Sounds like Kyky. It sounds like
yeah, in season 2 though, I think there's going to be, I don't know if you can do anything between like in the middle of a season. I don't know if you can do trades or buying out players from other teams or whatever, but between seasons I definitely think there's going to be a lot of money going around for trades and buys and stuff like that.
Tell the bosses those are really fun to watch from the sidelines, so they should probably open up about them once they've happened. We like to talk about them.
I would love to talk about salaries and stuff. Like that's like the most fun thing to speculate.
Yeah. So just, that's the one thing they can do for us, even though they don't know who we are, though. I'm sure they'll want to do that anyways. But one more thing here, and then I'll let Blevins close us out. We've heard a little talk recently that there's going to be a new spectator mode. Real fast, have you seen it yet or no?
I have not. No one has seen it except for the
casters,
the Overwatch League talent.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to see in the new spectator mode that you think would benefit you as a coach?
I haven't thought too much about it, but the two things that I would like to see that are always bugging me are, one, hacked health packs, an easier way to tell what's hacked from a spectator point of view. And then the second thing is, instead of having the outline on people that are behind a wall, I would rather just like see maybe the solid color of that team, of the character, kind of like when Widow has wall hack up. Just like always see that way it's easier to distinguish where everyone is, rather than like a very faint outline that you might miss. Other than that, I haven't thought that much about it. I'm just like hoping that it's as good as they all say it is.
Yeah, just use what they give you and get the most out of it, and everything else is kind of like wasted effort at a certain point, I would think.
Well, I know Monty has seen it and said it was pretty good, and he's usually a basher of most things. So I'm excited for that. Now, Kyky, you're considered to be one of the best coaches in Overwatch right now. So besides yourself, who do you think are some of the best coaches out there, in your opinion?
Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. Obviously, I don't really know too much about what other coaches do. I've heard very, very, very good things about Wizard Chong that was working with LW Blues. I don't know where they are now is confirmed or what. I've lost track of what's confirmed and what's not. So I've heard good things about the LW Blues staff, and I've heard mixed things about the other Korean team staff, including Lunatic High. So I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know obviously I don't know much myself. I haven't experienced those teams firsthand. From the Western side of things, I think the FaZe coaches did a good job.
Yep.
Yeah, they did a good job with.
Show, actually.
I don't know what exactly they did or how involved they are, like I said, but I know that team got significantly better. I think a lot of it's due to Carpe, but obviously they had some role in that too.
We had a big role in bringing Carpe in, for sure.
I don't really know much about the others, though. Like, I've worked with some during the tryout period, and I think that there was a good amount of flaws in a lot of the current coaches around.
Gotcha. Now, we've had Leaf on the show, who is widely considered one of the best, if not the best, Doomfist specialist in Overwatch. What are your thoughts on, like, maybe not a one trick, but like a very specific specialist making it onto teams in Overwatch League?
Like a one hero specialist?
Yeah, one hero, or maybe like not a very wide hero pool, to say the least. Not necessarily like a one trick, but or maybe even a one trick, just someone who's like a specialist of one either type of hero, or maybe one or two heroes.
I would be very surprised if someone that could play less than 3 heroes could have success on a team. Mainly because, let's say, this person only plays one hero, they're only good at this one hero, and if they have to play anything else, they're very, very mediocre, and they basically can't pull their weight in a top-tier game. If that's ever the case, then, like, let's say I'm a coach and I'm against this said player, and I would just be like, okay, I would just prepare a strategy against that player if he was ever subbed in, and I would just be like, okay, if he comes in, we're going to do this, shut him down, and then it's basically 6v5 or something like that. I think it'd be too easy to prepare against. I think everyone's gonna have to play at least 3 heroes, I think. And I think that's pretty like specialist-ish itself.
But if they had 6 one tricks, how are you gonna? You can't prepare for all of them, kind of.
You have the best Doom
Mercy one trick.
Yeah, the best Mercy.
Every team's got a Lucio one trick, anyways. So I guess it's not too strange.
It also depends on how good they actually are at the one trick. Like when everyone said, "Who are you?" as a one trick, I think he got away with it because he was actually like very, very far ahead of everyone else at Genji. His game sense was insane. He was mechanically insane. Like everything about his Genji was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, many people, including ourselves, have said the same about Leaf. At least back in the early days of Doomfist, I think people kind of caught up to him, but he's still extremely good at Doomfist. But okay, so this is pretty much unrelated to anything, but has been a kind of a new topic in Overwatch very recently. What are your thoughts on desfriend coming back to Overwatch?
I think, I mean, I really like the bad things that he does because I think it causes a lot of interest. Obviously, I think obviously his aim is what he's known for too, and his aim is nuts. I think he should be allowed to come back and play for a team as long as he doesn't continue to terrorize people. But I have no problems with desfriend.
So would you write a tweet with the hashtag #SanFranDeFrance?
No, because he's going to be saying the Dallas desfriends when he signs desfriend as the 9th player on his Overwatch League roster confirmed.
The way I see it is that he didn't like bully anybody. He didn't harass anyone that I know of. I think he just kind of like basically showed the weaknesses that some of the system has right now, and he made it very well known, which obviously had some negative consequences to it. But if he didn't do it, someone else would have probably.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about this, 6 months or whatever when it happened, it was like, okay, he did a thing that was like, it wasn't like heinous or anything, right? Like you said, he didn't like harass anyone or do anything really awful. He just like showed, like, basically he made Blizzard look stupid on stream and on a public forum, and Blizzard has every right to be like, oh no, you are the stupid one, not us.
Yeah, but once he came back with that like twit longer, it was just like, I don't care.
Yeah, right.
I don't care. Ban me, whatever. Then like he's kind of asking for it at that point. So
yeah, for sure. But he embraced it. Like you gotta respect that. He was consistent with it. He didn't back down.
Yeah. Especially like considering how much money he could be making in Overwatch League. It's actually crazy that he was actually so dead set on going the way that he did.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the stump question. You don't need to answer anything that will get you in trouble. If all things off the table, like it's shown he didn't harass anyone or do anything like horrifically illegal, he's eligible to play in Overwatch League, would it be a consideration for you to bring him on the team?
To Dallas?
Yeah.
No. If we ever wanted like one of these like super trackers, like these super aiming track style, like for Soldier and stuff, we would just have Harry do it.
I was gonna say, just move your Lucio over.
Gotcha. So not worth the Terrell Owens like locker room cancer potential, like not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is just like Harry can do what he does, plus he can do other stuff. And I know Harry. Everyone on the team loves Harry. He always plays for the team, so there's really no point to pick someone that's like kind of a half of a Harry to like in some way.
Right. Well, I mean, when you've got the best, you get to be a little you get to be a little picky.
Yeah, but no doubt about it, he would definitely be on a team. desfriend would 100% be on a team if he could be. Or if he wanted to be, either or.
Interesting. Okay, so we've just got a couple of viewer questions, and then we'll be right out of it. So Winston Smith asked, "Do you think the pro community can do more to engage the casual community?" which he, in his mind, thinks it will be necessary for Overwatch League to bring in new viewers.
Yeah, I think a lot of the players are pretty lazy about the way they market themselves and stuff like that. They could definitely do more. However, I think once Overwatch League starts and like once everyone's in LA, like once everyone's good to go, all the teams are together, I think you're gonna see a lot of content come out for every team. Like those companies themselves are gonna make a lot of content about their teams, and so I think you're gonna see a lot of it once we get going.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely the stuff we're going to be looking for as well. And we've got another one from Thornrain, and this one has been kind of on all of our minds for a while now. Do you know if Envious, specifically Envious, is allowed to field the Contenders team for Season 2? And if so, are they looking for one? And would you have any role with that team?
We are allowed to. Envious is allowed to do it under the Envious name. They wouldn't be under Dallas Fuel. They could do it under Envy. I'm not sure what we're doing yet because I don't know what we're allowed to do. I don't know if we have to sell our spot, if our spot's being given to an Overwatch Open team or what. If we did do that, which is something that I was actually very interested in a couple months ago, and I was talking to Mike about it. If we did do that, at this point, I've kind of realized that I would not be allowed to help that team in any way beyond like maybe the scouting process, because I'm not allowed to, me and all the other players, we're not allowed to be affiliated with Envy anymore. So,
okay.
So yeah, we're basically our own brand, and it's separate from Envy now.
Gotcha. So it wouldn't even be able to be like a traditional like farm system for like Major League
no,
Baseball.
you could do that.
You could do that.
You could do that, but that would be like an internal thing. You just can't do it like publicly. You can't just be like, oh, we can't be going around like as Dallas Fuel and be like, oh, this is our academy team we got over here, and they're doing so great, and we helped them get to where they are. Like we wouldn't be able to do that. It would just be like internal, like we could help them or maybe scrim them, but yeah,
gotcha.
No public affiliation.
Yeah, I guess that. Well, I mean, that's almost. I mean, it's kind of like the opposite of that for Major League Baseball, right? Like, you've got the farm teams that they're like the Major League players aren't actually helping the minor league players, right? Like they have no affiliation. But like if Harry Hook needed to like, I don't know, it doesn't really translate into Overwatch League. But if you needed to send someone down to the minors, for instance, you wouldn't really be able to do that in Overwatch, right? Like you can't actually like send someone from Dallas Fuel down to the Envious Contenders team to play.
No one that's in an Overwatch League team will be able to play simultaneously in Contenders that I'm aware of.
Gotcha. It wouldn't really make sense like it kind of does in baseball anyway, but that is definitely interesting. And the last one we have, this one's from Kakora. Is there any limit to how many subs that you're going to be able to make in a map? I guess, yeah, we kind of talked about this already, right? We don't have the full rules for substitutions and whatnot, right?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think that Blizzard even expected anyone to do subs during Contenders, and I think we kind of threw them off by doing it in the playoffs. They didn't really seem like they were preparing for any team to do that, so we kind of just like made it up as we went. I've been asking them what kind of rules there will be. I don't think it's decided yet. I would imagine you wouldn't be able to do more than one sub at a time. Like you wouldn't be able to just bring in like your six, like a specialist team for maybe like 2CP, the 2CP specialist squad or anything like that.
It's the special teams. We actually did talk about that. I don't, Death, you might be able to jog my memory here. We talked to someone who was like, yeah, you could just have two full teams.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, to be honest, that brought it up, but
man,
yeah, somebody talked about just signing two whole rosters and then you game plan for one, and then they show up that day and they're just like, oh, whoops, you're gonna play that one.
Yeah, you're playing.
I really hope that this game gets to where everyone has 12-man rosters, but
I agree.
I don't think. I don't even think a few teams will in the first season. It's just not likely.
Yeah, it'll take some time. I think the organizations are going to need to see, I think, some return on investment before they're willing to go kind of above and beyond what they need to do to maintain, a baseline competition. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping for that, full 12-man rosters, kind of developing people in-house. And I also want to see like full coaching staffs. Like I want to see like a head coach, an assistant coach, and then positional coaches for support, tank, DPS. Like I want to see all that. I want to see it blow up. I think it would just be a lot of fun and kind of lay it. I want to see it as like the precedent for esports in the future. Like as somebody that's so into traditional sports, I don't know. I just kind of want to see like the NFL literally cloned and turned into just playing Overwatch instead of football. That's my dream, I guess.
Yeah, the first season will tell a lot.
Yeah.
See how successful it is.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Kyky, that's all that we've got for you. We did run through it. Surprised, I thought it was going to take about 4 or 5 hours to get through that many questions. I'm glad we ran through them. So now the floor is yours. Is there any shout outs or anything that you want to throw out there into the world?
Shout outs to my amazing team. I love them. They're like best friends to me. Mike, our owner, for giving me the opportunities he has, and Tasmo, our team manager, for cleaning my apartment.
which you did not have to show today because of do you want to tell, just right before you leave, do you want to tell that little story about why you don't have a camera today?
Oh, I mean, I can say it very like cryptically in that I don't have a HyperX headset with me, but
yeah,
I'm currently on vacation. I'm back home for the first time in a year. I actually drove a car today for the first time in a year, and I felt very uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah, wow. That's such a weird thing to think about, that you have like driving a car after not having driven one for a year. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I've never felt nervous driving, but today I was driving and I was like, I don't know. It was very, very weird.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we won't keep you any longer. Again, Kyky, thank you so much for coming on the show. 2 things before you leave. You have officially survived the High Noon Hot Seat. It's really not that big of an accomplishment. We haven't lost anyone yet. And number 2, you will forever be branded as a friend of High Noon Podcast. Death, we now have a reason to root for Dallas Fuel. Like we don't have to pick teams that we've had on the show over Dallas Fuel now. Now we can just burn blue.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd just come on like 2 or 3 weeks earlier, I wouldn't have been able to go out on a limb and pick Corn Dog to win. So yeah, you could have saved me by not coming on earlier, but from now on, I've learned my mistake. I went on a limb, Kyky. Yeah, we had corn dog shirts arrive that week. We bought corn dogs to eat while we were watching the tournament. We decided to have some fun with it. But yeah, from now on going forward, we'll be obligated not to do silly things like that anymore, and we'll just root for the boys in blue.
I mean, sounds good.
One of Thornray did bring up the awesome point that if Corn Dogs would have beaten you guys, it would have been the first made-for-TV esports movie. Like Corn Dogs being envious would have just been like a Lifetime movie, like perfectly made.
You know what the weird part about?
Probably not from his side, John.
There's a very weird part about contenders where we're talking to talent beforehand, and I basically told them exactly what FaZe or FNR GFE we'd need to do in order to beat us, and I didn't even prepare myself against what I was saying. But they didn't do it anyway.
So you were like, you had it ready.
I knew what they had to do, but I just didn't think. I guess I knew that they wouldn't do it or something. But it occurred to me just a couple days ago that I didn't even prepare against these things I was saying that they needed to do to win.
So in a world where they cloned additional versions of you, we could have seen Corn Dogs on top of contenders.
Yeah, I don't know. I think most teams just play way too safe, and that's what it came down to. It was just too easy to prepare against teams that are afraid to go off meta.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, okay. Now we're actually gonna go. I know I do a fake ending like every time, but again, Kyky, super huge thanks for coming on the show. Huge shout outs to Dallas Fuel as well as to you for coming on the show. You're welcome back anytime, and we hope to hear from you again.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. All right, everyone. That's gonna be it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. yeah, so check out highnoonpodcast.com for all the links to the show. If you guys are listening live, we're over at twitch.tv/highnoonpodcast. All that good stuff. Death, any last second stuff before we cut it?
No, that's it. Just thanks again, Kyky.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.